A big old good morning first to everybody. Welcome back over on TikTok. If you are here, hit me with a good morning, drop your location, and do the same thing if you're on YouTube as well. Go ahead and type up in the chat and say, hey, Josh, good morning. Happy Friday. I am tuning in from Tampa. I don't know. I want to see who's here, who's ready to rock and roll. And then we're going to dive into it. We're going to have some fun, guys. We're going to do all of our analysis live on the Spy the Q's IWM, scan the watch list, see if anything stands out, look at your stocks for today as well, and get you guys up and running, ready for the day. We got an hour to do it, so it's going to be fun. A little east of Dallas. Okay, east of Dallas. Northwest Indiana. What part of Indiana, man? Northwest. Northwest. So you're like Kokomo towards the west. I don't know. I'm from Terre Haute originally. We call it Terrible Haute, Indiana. Terrible. San Diego. So it's early, man. It's like 5 o'clock. You're just waking up. You're like still in bed. Let's see if Josh is online. Oh, Josh is here. 5 a.m. Still inside of bed. Tom, what's up? Good morning, Frank. Big Ron. What's up, Big Ron? How you guys doing? Happy Friday, guys. Happy to be back. So we're going to dive right into it, guys. Pre-market rundown. Let's talk about what we got going on. Chris, what's up, buddy? Munster, Indiana. I gotcha. Munster. Northwest. Oh, I was doing northwest like this. No, that would be northeast, Josh. Northwest. I got you. Yeah. Know exactly where that's at. All right, so right now we are on the SPY daily. And what we're going to do is do our top-down analysis, see what we have for today, and we will go from there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and dive right into the SPY. We'll go to the Qs, and then we'll start looking at some of your individual stocks for today as well. Let's get with it, guys. All right? And if you guys have any questions in the process, let me know. So first thing is we had that little gap right here on the SPY, so we can see that we have this daily gap from, what was that, Friday's close. So last week, Friday's close, big gap down into Monday. We have this gap level, okay? But right around this gap level, I do see that there's going to be a nice zone of resistance, and that zone is going to definitely trump just a single level. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a zone off that gap level, and we're just going to connect all of those points, right? So I could literally just throw a line right up here at 607.96 and say that's the level of resistance today. But when I look at it, I actually see a nice zone of resistance here on the SPY, and it's right up against that gap level as well. So here we have a zone. And we have 1 touch point, 2, 3, almost 4, 5. We got a nice zone of resistance. It's right where Friday's close is at. So we could definitely see the gap get filled. We can definitely top out inside of that daily zone of resistance, and we could see it roll on over, right? But here's the thing. If we don't see the gap fill rejection and we break that level, then we want to see, the SPY pull back into that zone. Simply hold that zone as support, and then we could see the SPY potentially push higher today, right? So the zone on the SPY is, you ready? 607.81 to 607.96. All right, that's the zone I'm working with today. All right, and then let's go find what we can find to the upside. There's not going to be a lot because we're at all-time highs, but we're going to do our best. There is this one little teeny weeny zone right here on the SPY, right? And I got to change these colors. That's not the color I want to rock with. I want blue. Blue is the best color ever. All right, so we're going to go ahead and mark up those previous 2 highs of day on the SPY. All right, so those 2 highs a day, a little bit of that tap. So you got a little bit of a zone up here between 608.44 to 608.48. And then, there's not really a lot you can do here, guys. The last little teeny weeny zone, right? It's not very significant, but we're still going to mark it up. It's just going to be off Thursday's high a day and close, and then last Friday's open. So last Thursday, high day and close, last Friday's open, right around 609.75 to 609.82 would be like the next area of potential resistance, right? Because we're just sitting at these all-time highs. But at least that zone is better than just throwing a single line up there at all-time high, because at least we have 3 points off that zone versus just hitting, 610.81 time. We'll at least see that area possibly being a little bit more significant. So those are all of the 3 main little zones to the upside. And then what we want to do is go find some areas to the downside. Okay. So that's going to be right here on the SPY. So next whittle zone here is going to be 606.33 to 606.63. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touch points at that level. Solid stuff. That was actually a zone that we had from yesterday as well, right? And that was a key zone because we hit it high a day on December 18th, and we had that massive dump on down. Did you guys see what the SPY did end of day yesterday off that daily zone? We came up to it, we hit it, and we just freaking dumped to the downside. That was awesome. So that's why I want you guys to be able to find these zones, because that zone was a zone we had from yesterday. We came up to it towards the end of the day. We didn't break above it, and look at that massive dump off that zone, right? That doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, your base hit turns into a home run. That could have been a really nice trade simply off of a key daily zone, guys. Let's go find one more zone to the downside, and that should wrap up what we have on the SPY daily, and then we'll start going down to our lower time frames. And we'll see what we have on some of those lower time frames. There's going to be another little zone here between 604.06 to 604.31. Want to make sure we're live over in the Discord as well for you guys. So again, from 8 to 9, primarily using, TikTok, YouTube, having some fun. 9 to 9:30, exclusively with everybody in the mentorship. And we do the morning analysis from 9 to 9:30. And then 9:30 to about 11:30, 12, we're coaching, trading live together, all that good stuff. But in the morning, I'm also going to stream everything here in the Discord too, as we're just doing some real-time analysis. A great opportunity to learn and just keep the skill set sharp. So, I want to make sure that I can, you guys can hear me over on the Discord too. So just say, yep, I gotcha, loud and clear. You can see the screen. You can hear my beautiful voice. I know you can't see my beautiful face, but hey, sometimes you don't want to see that anyway, right? All right, so those are the main zones on the SPY that I'm going to be working with today. All right, do we see anything else on the daily that we could do? I mean, we could take a fib extension from all-time high down to Monday's low a day and drag it back up and see if we're going to be hitting any of those extension levels today. And we're not. We're above 607. So that fib extension is going to do us literally no good. What we could do next is we could take a fib retracement from this swing low up to that swing high and see where did we come down to. Not quite the 50%. Haven't really been respecting those other two fib levels, so I wouldn't really say that's going to be a good retracement level to have. So really for the SPY today, we're just going to mainly be working with some of these daily zones. So let's go flip this down into a lower time frame, and let's see if there's anything else we notice here on the SPY that we can't necessarily see on a daily time frame. So you see how we can go find a zone right here? You see that on the SPY? Between 608.98 to 609.06, you get more touch points. I mean, this is a decent little zone right here, but there's another little zone right there between like that 608.98 to 609.06. And that's a level that you don't get multiple touch points on a daily. You hit it one time on the daily. You got two big candle bodies through that zone on the daily, but when you flip that down into a 1 hour, you actually see a couple hourly touch points off that zone. So that's going to be another little zone that I definitely would like to keep on watch for today. Hopefully that makes sense on how I found that. You got a little tap, nice drop on off. You break it here, retest it, nice little low, you bounce. So at least we know that's going to be a decent little zone. And it seems like a lot of these zones are pretty tight and close together. I mean, they're within what? From 108 to 108.50, 108.50 to 109, 109 to 110. So, I mean, these three zones are like very close and very tight together. So the goal here is to identify which ones are more significant, right? Because there's only 50 cents in between those zones. Way too tight. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to run this back on a 5-minute time frame, and I want to just look at these three zones and see if I can identify on like a lower time frame which ones were respected substantially better. This one right here definitely already hit it as a low a day, little tap bounce, grinded as post-market support. I mean, I can definitely validate that zone a little bit more. We hit that zone one time. Let's go back and see. Little tap. That's the zone we want to keep for sure. Looking at that top zone here. Yeah, I don't like it. So we're going to take the top zone away. Right off those bodies. I don't like it. The top zone, we definitely have the little tap. What about this middle zone? High day rejection. Nice little crackback, lower high drop. Opened at it, flushed. Got close to a high day there. I mean, if these zones are like zones, I mean, we're going to have to just work with it, guys. But I don't like when those zones are super tight together. Came down, bounced, cracked it, retested it. We see all of these zones being respected, though, man. That's the thing. We come down, bounce off the top one, crack below it, come down to your middle zone. We bounce, crack, retest. Below the next one, retest it. It's unfortunate that they're within 50 cents of each other, but that's just what we have to work with today. So, with that being said, those will just be like quick little scalps, little 50-cent scalps. That's just what we're going to have to work with today. But we have that 608 zone, and if we cannot really get above the 608 zone, at least we know we have some room down to 606.50 on the SPY. If we get above and stay above this 608 zone, we could see it up to 608.50, 609, and then realistically just starting to push back up into these all-time highs, guys. So I think we're going to have better opportunity besides the SPY today, simply because these zones are so close together. I don't like that personally. And yeah, we'll just have to see what we have. So, I mean, honestly, what I would prefer to see today is obviously, you know, the SPY set up to the short side. That would be ideal, right? SPY setting up to the short side off that 608 zone, dropping back down the 606.50. At least we know there's $1.50 plus to the downside. And if we ever fall below that 606.50 zone, we know we have room down the 604. So ideally, I'd like to see the SPY set up short, but that doesn't mean I have bias. Doesn't mean I'm biased, okay? All right, so that's the SPY. Let's go check out the Qs and see if we have anything better with the Qs. NQ is right at the gap now, keeps bouncing off the bottom. Let's see what we got on the Qs. We still have that big gap on QQQ. And so we could just go mark up the gap like this if we wanted to. But I see that there's going to be a nice little zone we can create around the gap level. All right, and zones are always going to be a little bit more significant. So let's do that on the Qs. Let's get an idea of what we have, and it's definitely going to be right at that gap level. We can drag that zone down a little bit and say, hey, yes, we have a gap fill rejection potential trade today, right? And we also have a nice little zone that we've hit 1, 2, 3, like 4 times. Nothing crazy, but we got something there. So I'm going to throw a zone here on QQQ up between 529.24 to 529.58. And that's going to be an area of resistance. It's also right at the daily gap. We could see that nice little gap fill rejection. Maybe see a nice short today. If we break that level, hold that level, we could see a little bit more upside. Where would be the next main area that we could get to here on the Qs? Going to be right up in this region here. A little high rejection, a little open and push, reject, reject, reject. So somewhere right in here. I don't know if we want to run it up to those highs or the bodies. Yeah, I'll probably drag it down a little bit. So we're looking at like a 532.78 to 533.18. So that's going to be a nice little zone on the Qs today. 532.78 to 533.18. That'll be a nice little resistance level. Let's go find some key areas to the downside. This one stands out to me. This one's very just clear as day. Yeah, this one's clear as day. Right here, guys. I mean, look at that. That just stands out. That's an easy one. Right, you see how we come up and tap that zone quite a few times, break above it, hold it, big impulsive move to the upside, bounce off of it, high day resistance, high day resistance, high day resistance, high day resistance. We smack that level so many times. Let's go dial it in. Let's readjust it if we need to readjust the zone to make sure it's as dialed in as possible here, making sure we connect all those points. So yeah, you're going to be right at this 525.98 to 526.44 level. All right, and just look at how we came up a couple days back to back. Couldn't break through it. Broke above it here on December 11th. Came back and retested it on December 12th, and then had a big impulsive move off that zone. Bounced off of it here, gap down below it, high day rejection, resistance, 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 multiple touch points. Nice big significant moves off that zone. It looks pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. It looks pretty good. So that's going to be the zone that I want to work with today here on the Qs. And then let's go find one more to the downside and see where that next daily zone's gonna be. And the next one's kind of iffy. All right, the next one's definitely a little iffy here. You're running right in this area on the Qs. Decent. 521.30 to 521.77 would be the next zone here on QQQ. 521.30 to 521.77 on the Qs. So that's what I got on the Qs. Anything else on the daily? Let's take that fib extension from the swing high right there to the swing low. back up to the swing high and see if that gives us any potential confluence. Yeah, kinda does. Actually, it does. So look at that fib extension. If we put that fib extension back up on QQQ from the swing high into the swing low, then you got to drag it back up to that swing high. What do you notice about our 23.6 extension on the Qs? It's right at last Friday's low of day, and then we had that big gap down. So that actually gives us another reason that 528.23 could be the better level of resistance for today versus the candle body, because we have two separate reasons there. I am going to go ahead and do this. Since we have that 23.6 extension right up against last Friday's low of day, that already gives you some confluence. I'm going to look and see if we have a zone around those points. So you see that we have a nice little zone right at 527.91 to 528.27. That's right up against that fib extension's 23.6 level. How valid is the zone? We got 1.2 points, only 3 points, but you add that fib as another reason. Has this fib been respected to the upside? It came up, tapped the 50%, got rejected. So at least we see that 50 being respected a little bit. Compare it to the top zone, how many points? 1, 2, 3, 4. That other zone, we had what? 1, 2, 3. So there's a difference in like 1 point between the two zones. I'd say that fibs level gives us more confluence than having an additional point. So I'm going to remove that top zone, and I'm going to focus on this 527.91 to 528.27 zone, because I like where it's at, right with that 23.6 extension. Now, what are we going to do to try and further validate this big zone? So I'm going to go ahead and give it a different color so you guys can see the difference. All right, so I'm going to make it green, because what I want to do now is say, hey, can we go down into a lower time frame and actually validate that zone further on a lower time frame? Because there's some days where we have these big candle bodies through the zone. Big candle body through the zone. That doesn't give us a daily point, but maybe if we go down to a 5-minute, we'll see some decent movement off that zone on a lower time frame that you can't see on a daily. If we see that, that's going to further validate this is the best zone to watch. Let's go ahead and go to a 5-minute, and let's go ahead and see what we got. Obviously, we had that low day bounce. Pre-market low last Thursday. Held it. Gapped up last Wednesday pre-market, pushed off that level. So we're starting to validate it a little bit more. We saw that high day. You knew that. Okay, how did we move off this level these couple of days? We came up to it, got rejected, broke it, held it to support, we pushed. We can further validate the zone. Pre-market on December 24th, we bounced off of it. Then we sat there and grinded it into the open. We snapped back above it, held it with a higher low, and we pushed off that level. That's good price action. That's really good movement off that zone. Low a day, we grinded it. We knew that. And we get some validation here. We come up to it, tap it, tap it, tap it. We had some resistance form off that level, even back December 11th. Yeah, I would say it's a pretty solid zone. We get to validate that zone a little bit further as we drill this down into like a lower time frame. And here's the thing. It's right up against what? Friday's low a day. That could be where we fill the gap, get rejected. We see gap fill rejections off low a day all the time. And then you have your 23.6 fib extension sitting right there. So you already have another reason to take the trade there. There's already another confluence. So with all that being said, I feel very confident that that's how we're going to run our gap. All right, that's how we're going to run the gap here. And that's how we're going to run the zone, and that's going to be the main level that I really want to put more focus on. That's going to be our line in the sand to start. And we will see what the Qs do off that zone here today. And so that zone, that key zone that I want to put some focus on, guys, that we're coming up into pretty much right now, it's between 527.93 to 528.31. I think that's a nice little level of resistance. that if we see the Qs come up into that zone, but we can't break through it, and we see there's more sellers than buyers present simply based on price action, I'm going to get short off that 528 zone back down to like 526. Okay? That's what I'm going to do on the Qs. And then I also just want to have reference that we could come up into Friday's candle close and then fill the gap into the body. So I'm still just as a reference point going to throw that 529.61 level on up because who's to say that we top out off that zone and we see a short? What if we break through it? Well, next area, Friday's close. That's where we can maybe start to see that little gap fill rejection. So that's the Qs. I mean, shit, looks a lot better than the SPY. I mean, the SPY, these zones are just pretty congested and tight together up here, which I'm not crazy about. Qs, we have more opening space in between the zones. We have more influence and reasoning on top of these daily zones that we already see some potential good trades. I like the Qs for today much more than I like the SPY, so I'm going to put more focus on the Qs. Economic calendar. I know we have some stuff on the calendar for today. I think we have core PCE at 8:30, so literally in like 18 seconds, we have core PCE data. Personal income, personal spending, and then at 9:45, we have Chicago PMI. Let's go ahead and look at the SPY and the Qs, and let's see what the market does. That could readjust our game plans for today, guys. All right, you got key data in 3, 2, 1. Data drop. Data drop. No movement. Frozen. Literally, the Qs did just freeze, though. Nothing. Do I trade ES? Yes, I trade futures. I do trade futures, yes. So here we go, guys. Now, what can we do? We can look at your stocks. So that was the analysis on the SPY and the Qs, doing top-down analysis, getting an idea of where our key levels are at, where we would like to be taking trades today, off what levels, and building some plans, really setting some expectations for the day. All right? So with all that being said, let's review some individual stocks with you guys. What's on your watch list? What are you looking at? Let's take a peek. And then we got 2.7 thousand likes. You got 2,000 likes in 30 minutes. Come on, guys. We can do much better than that. Let's get those likes up. Apple. Yeah, let's go look at Apple. Reported earnings last night. Nice little push to the upside here on Apple. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear all this out, but we still have this fib extension. And the reason I want you guys to take note of this daily fib extension from swing high to swing low is look at what we did the past 3 days. What did we do the last 3 days? We came up to the 50% level, tapped it, right? Tried to get above it as resistance, but we couldn't. So this fib extension is valid here on Apple's daily. So make sure you take a fib extension from your swing low, drag it down to, your swing high, drag it down to your swing low, and then take it back up to your swing high and get that fib extension on your daily. Number one. Take note, we came up to that 50% extension level here on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We tapped it 1, 2, 3 times, couldn't break it. So that leads me to believe that these other fib extension levels realistically could be respected. And so what do we have up here near the 23.6 fib extension on Apple? We got a nice little daily gap here, right? So we had a nice little close on December 31st. We gapped down on January 2nd, leaving a nice unfilled gap. What is right near that unfilled gap? The 23.6 fib extension. So if we ever see Apple come up and fill this gap, and the top end of the gap is right around like 250.42, we could see a nice gap-filled rejection. And we also have that 23.6 fib extension sitting right there as well. That could lead to some nice downside here on Apple. That's the first thing that I noticed. Nice little daily gap up here between 248.95 to 250.42. Very realistic. We come up, fill that level, hit that 23.6 extension, get rejected, and then we see some nice downside off that level. What else do we have here? Decent little level to also throw up on Apple. Nice little daily zone between 245.37 to 245.72. We tapped it once, twice, 3 times. The third time we hit it, big explosive move to the upside. So very sharp, significant move on up. We crack below it, retest it back to back, and then we flush. So that's going to be a pretty solid zone here on Apple as well, between 245.37 to 245.72. Next area that I do want to go mark up is these lows right in this region here on Apple. All of those lows. And that was a pretty solid level too. That's between 241.80 to 242.14. We got above that level, tapped it once, tapped it twice, hit it for the third time. Big explosive move to the upside. Came back down and bounced off of it. Boom, boom, boom. Eventually, we cracked below it. So that's going to be a pretty solid zone as well on Apple. 241.80 to 242.14. I think that gives me enough to work with for today. That's enough. Down to a 5-minute time frame. What do we see Apple doing? Oh, yeah. We're close to the gap, guys. So here's what I want to see take place on Apple today. And if I see this take place, I'm going to short Apple. I'm going to take puts on Apple. And what's the game plan? I want to see Apple come up and fill this daily gap at 250.42. Okay, what else would we be doing? We'd also be coming up into that 23.6 fib extension. Why would I even put weights in significance on the 23.6 fib extension being a level of resistance? Because we saw the 50% respected. So if I am going to use a fib extension or a fib retracement for a potential entry, I want to make sure that other points of the fib extension or the retracement have at least been valid along the move up or along the move down. So what do I see at the 50% level? It hit it 3 days back to back to back. Okay, it has been respected as an area of resistance. So that leads me to believe the 23.6 could also be respected as well. But not just the 23.6 level. We have this daily gap that lines up with that fib extension level. Right? So we have confluence there. So that's my game plan for the day. I want to see Apple come up, fill this gap at 250.42 and get rejected so I can play puts back down to that 245 zone. So we got about 5 points of realistic potential to the downside to play puts. And if we ever crack below and fall below that 245.50 zone, we got room down to 242. There on Apple. Apple looks very nice today. Very nice. Very nice. All right, what else are you guys looking at? That's Apple. Apple looks good. It's on the watch list today. Josh, you are the best and amazing stock teacher. Praise the Lord. I appreciate you, man. Glory be to God, brother. You're the only one doing this right now, free and early. I appreciate it. Yeah, I like doing this, guys. We do it 3 days a week. I'm trying to teach you, educate you, show you how to come in, how to find key levels, how to get prepared for the day, how to build plans. Again, it's a nice process. It's a simple process, an easy process to follow, gives you a lot of clarity for the day, allows you to get prepared, and you're ready to attack it. Is there a lot more you guys have to work on? Of course, right? You need to learn how to build plans, manage your risk, assess risk, work on your mindset, be disciplined, don't give into your emotions. There's a lot more you have to work on, but this is a great way to build a solid foundation for at least getting prepared for the trading day. And at least you know what you're looking at, why you're looking at it, and then again, where does the stock need to go before you're willing to put on risk and take a potential trade? And so again, that's what we're doing here, trying to help you guys out, and again, help you guys become better traders. All right, let's switch over to YouTube and see if there's any stock requests. over on YouTube. We got Big Ron looking at AMD. Yeah, man, let's go look at AMD. Maybe a wee little gap fill rejection, brother. You see this gap down from Friday into Monday. You might get a nice little gap fill rejection here on AMD today. Right, so where's the gap at? Gap is right there at market, baby, market. 122.84, man. 122.84 was Friday's close. And that's an area that we can absolutely come up to, fill the gap, get rejected, and see a nice little drop on back off. Let's go ahead and mark up the unfilled portion of this gap. Okay, because this is the unfilled portion of the gap between yesterday's high a day, right? And then, do we want to go low a day, or do we want to go into the candle body? I mean, it's only a difference of like 50 cents. Do we have multiple points off Friday's low? We got 1 point. We got 2 points. What do we have off the body? We have 1 point. Yeah, I would go into the wick. So I would take my gap to start from yesterday's high a day to last Friday's low a day. When did we actually get inside this gap? I know we got inside of it yesterday is when we gapped up in it. So here's what I want to do. I want to take the daily gap and just run it like the daily gap would have been. I want to go see what we did yesterday off that gap level. We hit it all day Wednesday, couldn't break it. Grinded that level on Thursday pre-market. Kind of chopped around it a little bit here. Got back above it. I mean, it was okay. Let's go candle body. So if you're wondering what I'm doing right now, again, I'm just making little fine-tune adjustments to the daily based on how I could run a gap. I can run a gap from wick to wick. I can run a gap from body to body. Sometimes we see a gap fill into the wick. Sometimes we see it fill into the body. So what I'm doing is I'm running it from wick to wick, body to body. I'm looking to see which one makes the most sense to where we could fill that gap level, get the rejection, whatever the case is. So I'm just going through the daily, making those little fine-tune adjustments, going back to a 5-minute to see, hey, can I identify what part of the gap was respected more? Was it the body? Was it the wick? Because that's going to allow me to run my gap correctly. I still don't like how it moved off the body. I'm going to be real with you. Not a fan of even how it moved off the body. So we're going to just take it back to wick, because at least it moved a little bit better from wick to wick, in my opinion, because we grinded it all morning in pre-market as support. So at least we see more touch points in a 5-minute, running the bottom part of the gap at that 118.07. The bottom part of the gap, 118.07 on AMD. Top of the gap is going to be 122.24 on AMD. You have a potential little multi-week downtrend sitting right here as well, Ron. So take a trend line and just run it right there. You may have some confluence, right? Top of the gap, right where that trend line is. Let's go make an adjustment to the trend line and make sure it is connecting the right points. So this trend line starts on the high day from January 7th. The next highs you want to connect are those highs of day from January 24th. We need to readjust that trend line. All right, so we need to take the trend line and connect those points. Ron, check that out, dude. You already have confluence on AMD. What do we have? We have the daily gap. We can see a gap fill, rejection. Okay, go look at that trend line. Okay, start your trend line back here from that high on January 7th, your high a day. Right there. You have 2 more taps off the trend line here from January 24th, right? What do you also have that lines up near the top end of your gap? You have 0.3 of that trend line, right? 0.3 is a pretty good high probability trade off a trend line, trying to get in on a 0.3 downtrend. But you also have the top end of that daily gap where you're already expecting a potential gap fill rejection to the downside. So there's already a high probability chance you fill the gap, get rejected, and you can play puts today. But now you have this multi-week downtrend, and that's coming into a 0.3. of that downtrend. So that increases the probabilities of this trade working out to the short side even more. I think you have something on AMD today if we can get up to this 122.24. That's where I would be looking to play puts, right at 122.24, top into the gap for the rejection, right off 0.3 of that downtrend. I would look to play some puts back down to at least 120. First target would be 120. Next target would be 118.07 on AMD. All right, AMD gets to go on the top of the watch list. It doesn't look terrible. All right, what's next? We have time for 2 more reviews, guys. We got time for 2 more. What else? I've created my own methodology to trading. You think Apple will make that? It's on the watch list. I think there's potential for Apple to get up to that gap level today. I even think there's potential on AMD to do the same. You the man? Nah, man. You the man. You the man. All right, back over to TikTok. Let's make sure I'm not missing anything. What was next on the list? Trying to go in order, but you guys keep throwing up tickers. Ticker galore, man. I already looked at Tesla. Tesla looks like ASS. It doesn't look good at all. What else? I know Walmart's on a swing trade watch list, but Walmart, you don't have anything today, man. You're wanting to see Walmart ideally stop pushing above 98, 98.80, because that's the 78.6 fib extension. You would ideally want to see Walmart start to pull back off that level and come back down into this daily zone, which is right at 95.68 to 95.95. That's where I'm looking to get long on Walmart for a nice swing trade back up to like $100. Walmart is on the swing trade watch list, but there's no reason to take it today because I'm looking to get long back down around that 95.70 to 95.80 level. That's where I want to be looking to play calls for the next leg up and then look for a nice swing trade up towards around $100. So it's on the watch list, but it's not something we're looking to trade today. We already looked at Apple. Apple, we've already reviewed it. AMD, we've already taken a look at that one as well. Spot in the queues. We're good on that. What else we got? SoFi. Yeah, SoFi keeps getting rejected off this daily zone between 1646 to 1661. That was an area that we got short off of back in the day. Back in like December, we played a short off that 1650 level. Came back up to it here on January 17th, got rejected, gapped up, pushed. But what did you just see here this week? You got back below that zone. And what are we seeing? It's coming back up into that zone, and we may see it get rejected again. So that zone on SoFi daily is between 1646 to 1661. If we break that level, we have room up to 1720. If we don't break this 1650 zone, I believe we have realistic potential to pull back again to this 1520 level on SoFi. So that's your LITs on SoFi, your LITS, line in the sand between 1646 and 1661. If you break that zone and hold it as support, you can play SoFi long back up to 1720. If you do not break through this level and you continue to top out and you start to see it rolling on over, you could then look for a short back down towards around 1520 on SoFi. Last one's going to be NVIDIA. So let's look at NVIDIA real quick. Oh, I don't like it, man. I don't like it. Looks like duty. So here's what we got to do. Are we respecting wick to wick for the gap or body to body? Let's go look at the wick to wick. Haven't really touched it a whole lot. Let's run our gap from body to body. And let's see if we have better movement around a body to body gap here on NVIDIA and see if there's one that just stands out to us. We're going body to body on that. Do we have better movement around body to body? Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. We smack it on Monday. We drop off of it. We top out off that level Tuesday in pre-market. We break inside of it, hold it, we push. Came back down and bounced Wednesday, fell back below it. Look at all those touch points we have off that body-to-body gap level on NVIDIA. So here's your gap on NVIDIA. You're going to run a gap from 124.89. That's the bottom, 124.89. Top end of the gap is at 142.55. But you're going to have an area of resistance right back up here between 128.30 to 129.07. And then you're just going to keep going on up and find all of your potential areas of resistance to the upside. And these are going to be your profit target levers. If we get inside this gap and if we decide to trade inside this gap, there are going to be quite a few profit target levels well before we even get up to the top end of the gap at 142.55. So here's how I would look to trade NVIDIA. So here's how I'm looking to potentially get involved with NVIDIA today. If we see NVIDIA break above 124.89, we get a break above 124.89, pull back and hold 124.89 as intraday support. I would look to get long up to that 128 zone, first target. Then if we get through that 128 zone, my next target would be 131 on NVIDIA. That's just for today. Could we see NVIDIA continue to push and fill that gap up at 142.55, maybe into next week? Yes. But for today, I need to have some realistic profit target levels. And those realistic profit target levels are simply going to be those daily zones. So that's the game plan on NVIDIA for today. Again, break above 124.89. Get inside the daily gap. Hold the bottom end of the gap as intraday support. Today, we get long. We can play calls up to that 128.50 zone and then potentially 131 on NVIDIA. That looks good. That'll be the third one on watch. So we got Apple today. Looks really nice. Looks very nice on Apple. I like it. AMD for the gap filled rejection. Also off the downtrend. Looks pretty good as well. And then NVIDIA getting inside a gap. So we got gaps all over the place. We got an NVIDIA gap, AMD, Apple, the Qs, the SPY. Yeah, man, I like it. Unlock it, unlock. Good data. Core PCE 2.8%. Meeting expectations. Monthly PCE rose, which was in line with the forecast. Tom, appreciate you, man. All right, so that's what I got, guys. Any questions? Let's hear some Metallica on the guitar. If I could play guitar, man. You said duty? I wish I could play the guitar, man. I don't know how. I don't know how to. All right. So let's go back to the SPY and the Qs. And last thing, see if we need to readjust anything. SPY still sitting right at that 108 zone. I like the Qs, man, at the start of the day. I do like the Qs. right at the start of the day for a possible gap-filled rejection into Friday's low a day. And you also have the 23.6 fib extension sitting right there as well. So that's going to be my number one watch at market open, is to potentially get short on the Qs right around this one. That's one. Yeah, right. 528.31. If we come up to that zone, which is right at this 528.31 level, and we cannot break above it, I will get short down to 526. We ever get below 526, right? Then I think there could be a nice big drop on down to like 521. The Qs. If we get above that 528 zone, right? Let's say we break above it and we come back down and hold it. I would be looking to then get long up towards around 529.61. So there's still about $1.50 of upside there. I like the Qs more than the SPY today, so Q gets my focus. Cutie Qs. When I did the NVIDIA analysis, did I do it on the daily? The daily, and then I went down to a 5-minute. My first couple years, I was just like trying to self-educate myself through like YouTube videos and books. And then I eventually hired a coach and I let them mentor me. So I invested in my education to help kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. I don't have a coach. We're talking like 7 years ago. I was in like a few different groups and stuff like that. But the name was Brian Beamish. He's no longer around, but he was an ex-hedge fund manager and trader out of Canada who taught me pretty much everything I know, helped me put the pieces of the puzzle together when it came to trading and really how to just fine-tune my analysis. And then over the years, I've always had mindset coaches that have nothing to do with trading, but neuroscience coaches, mindset coaches help me really work on the mindset, cultivate discipline, learn how to regulate my emotions, because that bleeds into trading big time, is your mindset. What books would I suggest? Because you've been looking for some. I tell you what, guys, don't go buy books because I'm going to show you something pretty cool. If you guys go click the link in my profile on TikTok, all right, and you go click the link tree, there's a link in my bio. It says Linktree. Click that. And if you go where it says join my free community, you guys can scroll down and simply join the free community. When you guys are inside of the free community, just go where it says server guide at the top. There's a server guide and it's going to show you kind of like next steps, unlock the channel, start here, etc. But one of those channels is free education. If you go into the free education tab, right, you'll see exclusive access to my private drive. It's a collection of over 100 PDF books. If you click that link, you're going to have access to over 100 PDF books. So around wealth and mindset, around options trading, around day trading, around just technical analysis. I mean, there is a boatload of downloadable PDF books. So like Trading in the Zone is in there. Anna Coling, Complete Guide to Volume Price Analysis is in there. I mean, there's a lot of good books. So don't go buy it unless you want to like have it. You can just download the PDF book and read it on your phone. I love it how you don't sell your programs on TikTok like other influencers do. Yeah, I'm not here to sell you guys. I'm here to provide value and educate. If you want to work with me, you know where to find me. You can send me a DM, have a conversation about mentorship. If it makes sense, great. If not, I'm going to point you guys in the right direction. But yeah, man, I like helping you guys out. Want to see you guys win. And like I said, you know that I have a mentorship program. If you ever want to work with me, reach out to me and we'll see if it makes sense. But still going to show up, still going to help you guys out. Move the needle. Become better traders. Would I recommend starting with a live account or a paper account? Paper account, man. Because if you're brand new and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose the money. So do you want to lose fake money or do you want to lose real money? I'd rather go through some of the initial trial and error and lose fake money, right? But you don't work on your emotions, Josh. There's no emotions. You don't really need to worry about your emotions day one, man. You need to understand the platform, click all the fucking buttons, make mistakes. You need to learn how to do proper analysis and even learn how to do analysis and find zones, for example, the trade off of. Day one, you're not focused on mindset and emotions. Day one, you're learning the platform, you're fine tuning your analysis. Then there comes a point in time you need to learn how to cultivate discipline, work on your trading mindset, and learn how to regulate emotions. But not day one. So for the people that tell you start with a live account day one, they're out of their mind. They don't know what they're talking about. Go through the initial ramp up, trial and error, make mistakes with fake money. Once you gain a little bit of consistency, then go to a live account and then worry about working on your emotions and the discipline part. So yes, paper account. And then there will come a point in time where you should definitely go live, small live account, maybe like a few $100, and then start working on the emotional side of trading. All right. What time is it? I got to leave you guys. But peace out. Stay blessed. Have a good one. Much love to everybody. Trade smart, trade safe today. And I will see you guys back here on TikTok and YouTube Monday morning at 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Peace out, guys. Have a good one, and I will see you then. I got to get the Zoom loaded up. Where's my Zoom at? Zoom, zoom, zoom. Right. Let's get the Zoom fired up. God bless you guys.